Thank you so much for joining us for this brief overview of extensions. We're really excited to have you with us today. My name is Sarah Torpy. I am the co-founder and CEO of ExSTEMsions. You can see my email down there at the bottom of the screen. You can always reach out if you have questions after the webinar or going forward as you hopefully decide to join us. First, let's talk a little bit about how this webinar is going to work. We're only going to take, 15 or 20 minutes of your time, but what we'd like to talk about is what ExSTEMsions is, why we do what we do, how it works, and how what it does can help you and your children. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about how you can try it for free for the next 3 months. So to begin with, what exactly is this tool, ExSTEMsions? First, it's built for families with kids ages 10 and up, so essentially kids who have finished elementary school math and are ready to walk into the more complicated world of middle school. Complicated in so many ways, but particularly in the area of math is where we're focused. ExSTEMsions is at its heart innovative weekly math problems, so you get a new problem every week. And our problems are specifically built to strengthen your child's math skills, but also really push hard on their critical thinking and problem-solving skills that they'll use to do math, but then they'll be able to use everywhere else they go in life and every other subject and every part of what they do. ExSTEMsions is also created by expert teachers. Myself and my partner are both longtime math teachers who have lots of experience with both math and how kids learn at lots of different levels. And part of what we saw that brought us to ExSTEMsions was sort of a gap in what was available to parents and kids. And so we decided to build this. ExSTEMsions is really designed with parents in mind. We want to enable you to help your child with math, particularly in building confidence in math and in critical thinking and problem solving. It's something that you can do, and we really truly believe that. We want to help you and your child to engage with math in a way that's different, where the math you're doing is actually interesting and potentially even fun. I know people kind of shudder when I say things like that, but really it doesn't have to be so scary. And then we really want to help you support creative and flexible and innovative thinking in your child. So when we start from interesting problems, it lets your child approach it in lots of different ways and to think in ways maybe they don't get the opportunity to otherwise. So why ExSTEMsions? Why did we do this, and what are we really believing in? We want to share with you sort of the handful of things we really hold at the core of what we do. The first is that, math is something that underlies much of what we do, whether or not we think about it. Primarily for our purposes today, it's really what lays underneath critical problem solving and critical thinking. The better you are at math, the more you can use those skills and build the skills that you can then use lots of other places. When you build problem solving and critical thinking in math, you get to apply those skills in social studies and science, in day-to-day life, and getting along with your siblings, and working together in the career you're considering years from now or not too far from now. But it's the opportunity to build higher and higher skills using math as the starting point. The second idea that we really hold on to is this idea that problems and the work you do should be complex, but it shouldn't feel complicated. When things are complex, they have big ideas. They have maybe some different parts, but it all comes together in a way that makes sense, that you can relate to. Things that are complicated are lots of little pieces that don't seem connected. So our aim is always to be connected and realistic and complex. But we don't want you to feel like this is torture. We don't want you to feel like this is a complicated thing to do. That's not the goal at all. And it shouldn't be the goal in math. The third thing is that we really believe that you, as a parent, have the skills to do this with your kid. We know that you know your kid best. You know what they're good at, what they're not as good at, what they're really interested in, what gets their attention best, what drives them running from the room. What we provide for you are the tools that help you use the skills you have and the knowledge of your kids to do more, to push harder on things that are really important, like math and critical thinking and problem solving, and that will serve them well as they grow. The last thing is one that is hard. It's a little bit of, you have to sort of join in and think and just sort of believe it, sort of a fake it till you make it kind of thing. Math really is for everybody, and you are a math person whether you believe it or not. We all are. We use it every day. We all use it differently, but we really are at our core all capable of math. And you have to believe that for yourself, and you have to believe that for your kids, because the more you believe it, the more it's going to be true. All right, so into the details. How does ExSTEMsions work? Well, to begin with, we always start with a problem. Every week when you subscribe, what you'll get is a problem. You'll get a notification that says, hey, we've posted a new problem. And it's going to look something like this. You come into your account, you sign in, and you come to the dashboard for this week, and you'll see a problem like this one called grapes. It starts by saying that the problem is just percentages, but asks you to think carefully. In a supermarket, resting on a wooden pallet are 100 pounds of grapes. These grapes are 99% water. But as they sit there, they dry out. And we've all been to a grocery store, right? We know, we've seen this happening. The water inside the grapes begins to evaporate. The water evaporates to the point where the grapes are only 98% water. And the question is, how much do they weigh? And as we get through this problem, what you'll see pretty quickly is we're going to tell you the answer right away. But it's not about the answer. It's about how you get there. Over the course of this problem, we're going to ask kids and families to try to figure out how to show what they know the weight of the grapes is with pictures, and then also show that in another way. So it's something that, kids can relate to. We've all been to a grocery store. We all know what grapes are. We all understand weight. But it's not necessarily the normal thing you're thinking about when you're in the grocery store, right? And it's something maybe you haven't considered. So over on the right-hand side, you're going to see some resources, and every problem comes with all of these resources. Some of them you might look at early in the process. So as a parent, what I might do is open up this problem and read it through, and then I'm going to read it with my child a couple of times. And then we're going to talk a little bit to make sure everybody understands what's going on. Then I might reference the math category and the thinking skills. The math category is what gives you a sense of the kind of math that you're doing. This particular problem is about proof and algebraic thinking and proportional relationships. The thinking skills gives you a little bit more information about what critical thinking and problem solving you're actually building as you do this. It gives you an idea as a parent sort of how to push at your child to help them, get the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. In the thinking skills in this problem, you'll see that one of them is visualization, because it's not easy for learners it's not even easy for adults to take the thing you're thinking about in your head and express it visually. But that's a huge skill. It matters in lots of different subject areas, and it's part of being able to present what you're thinking to the outside world in a coherent way. And the other key thinking skill in that problem is that you're seeing things from multiple perspectives. Over the course of the problem, the child is going to be asked to solve it using algebra, using pictures. And so being able to see like, oh, you know what? I could do this efficiently with pictures, but I could also represent it another way, helps them to manage different perspectives. And that's not an easy thing for kids. It's important though, right? Okay, so from there, it's really time to start thinking. And it could be that you guys sit down and think together. It could be you hand the problem to your child and say, come back and talk to me in 2 days. It could be anything in between there. But it's time to, start putting pencil to paper and saying, okay, how do we figure this out? Well, and at some point you might go like, oh gosh, I don't even know what to do. Or you get a good idea and you get partway through it and you think, oh, that's not going the way I think it is. Or your child comes up to you and says, gosh, I'm really stuck. So what do you do if you get stuck? Hopefully not panic. One of the other tools in the menu on the right is the solution. And every problem comes with a really detailed solution that's broken up into chunks. Each chunk lets you take the problem bit by bit. It lets you start at the beginning and go one bit at a time if that's the way you want to work through it, or just go to the bit you need maybe partway through to give you just enough information to go to the next part. It's bit by bit because we don't want you to see something that you're not ready for, but also, it sort of ruins the surprise if you see something more than you wanted at the moment. As you work through the solution, you use the sections that make sense for you when you want them. And then occasionally, not occasionally, quite often actually, what you'll see at the bottom of a section is this little orange book. And when that little orange book appears, that means we've also added in some questions. As teachers and as parents, we know that one of the hardest things when you're helping your child learn is asking them the right question at the right time. And happily, we have a lot of experience in that. So we've added in questions that you can ask your child to help move their thinking forward if they're stuck or if they just need a little prompt without telling them too much. And it's just good practice for asking good questions and sort of figuring out how to work collaboratively together. The other thing, before we get too far, that I want to remind you is there's no wrong way to do this. There's no rule. You can work through an extensions problem in any direction or collaboration way you'd like. There is no right, there's no wrong, there's just the way that works for you and your child and your family. And that's okay. If you have a number of kids that are of similar ages and they all want to work together, that's great. Let's collaborate. If one child wants to go off and do it on their own because they really want to think, that's great too. But whatever the approach is, you do it the way that makes sense for you. The other thing to bear in mind is we have lots of additional support besides the solution. So if you find yourself stuck or you just have a question, we have a community forum that you as a subscriber can access. It's through a private Facebook group and you can join once you're registered. We also have the ability for one-on-one support. So you could send us an email and say like, hey, we have this question, we're not sure what to do. What do you think? Or, hey, we're really stuck on this part. What did we do wrong? Those things can go in the community forum, or they can come to myself and my partner and my colleagues through the one-on-one support queue. Whichever is right for you is the one that you should use. Okay, so one of the questions you're asking yourself right now is, we don't have time for this, or how does this fit in our lives? Because I know just as well as everybody else, I have small kids and pets and jobs, and holy moly, there's only so much time in the day. Here's the thing. When you initially do the problem together, you talk about it, it might be 10 or 15 minutes, might be a half hour. And then over the course of the week, as you work through, you might talk again for 20 minutes or a half hour, work together, or piece through parts of the solution. It doesn't need to be 3 hours in a sitting. It doesn't need to be 2 hours in a sitting. It needs to be a little bit of time, pockets of time here and there that give you time to think and create and build and just talk about math, which is kind of a lovely thing. So we can fit it into lots of different spaces depending on how you structure your days with your kids and how you structure your learning. Okay, so once you do all the thinking with your problem and you think like, we've got this down, you mark it solved. And when you do that, a second piece opens up called the extension. Every problem comes with a second sort of extended problem that takes the thinking you were doing and pushes it along a little further. In this case, it's about taking the visual solution you did, solving how much the grapes weigh, and changing it into equations, into algebra, which is good practice at translating from one type of representation to another. Over on the right, you'll see there's still tools. There's math category, thinking skills, and a solution that you can use. The solution is for this extension, so you won't have to worry that we're sort of hanging you out and you have to figure it out on your own. It's all in there. Once you've marked the extension solved, you've got that down, you'll also get access to the big ideas. And in every problem, we've added in these big ideas to just give you a sense of how to step back and see the math and what it's for. Why do we look at problems in different ways? What do we get out of this kind of math? How does it impact the world around us? Who does this kind of math and what's it for? So we take a step back and look at sort of the bigger picture of the work you've been doing. Okay, that's how it works. And that's basically one problem a week like that. Every week might be different for you. You might do a whole problem and its extension. You might not quite finish one. You might skip one, but they're always going to be there for you in their entirety, and you can always work backwards into the archive too if you find you need more. We have all of that set for you. But at this point, you're probably thinking like, wow, this is not the kind of math we're used to doing. And that's true. We are purposefully different. We felt like there's a gap in what was available to parents and how you work on math together. And so ExSTEMsions is our way of filling that gap. The kind of math we're presenting and we're doing together is different. The way we focus on supporting parents is different. And our overall approach to learning is different. We are not going to skill and drill with your kids. We're not going to do times tables. We're not going to do a million of the same kind of area problem. We want to do things that are big ideas, lots of different kinds of math wrapped together that are interesting, that we can collaborate on, that we can build important skills with. So maybe it's time to try something different. If you want to try ExSTEMsions, you are going to, after this webinar, get the chance to try it for free for 3 months. So the question is, how do you do that? What you do is you share your feedback. We have a webinar feedback form that we are going to drop the link in the chat to you in just a moment. And what you can do is take 5 or 10 minutes and fill out that form. Once you do, you'll click submit, and the coupon code that you can use to get your 3 months free will appear at the end once you submit your feedback. So don't close that screen. Submit and then look at the next screen. From there, you'll go to extemsions.com and you'll click that green button to sign up and you'll get started. You can look at the different plans there, but if I were you and getting something for free, I would choose the most expensive one because that's what we do when things are free, right? And that would give you the greatest level of access to one-on-one support as well as the problem archive. So one of the other things you should know is that we are always here to help. We really do want to answer your questions and hear your feedback and have you share with others. But if you have anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. And that's really what we want out of this. We want the chance to work with you and your kids to have you guys do things that are a little different than what you've been used to, because we want the next generation of kids to love math, not to hide from it or decide they aren't math people. So here's the link to the form. I'm also going to drop the full link into the chat box right now, which I have to be able to get back to. So here's the chat box. Here's the link. Nope, that's not it. Of course it's not. Here it is, and I'll drop the full link in there in another minute. So there's the link in the chat. All right, and then now I'm going to check in and just see if there are any questions. So let me take a second. Okay. I don't see too many. Hopefully you guys really understand well how this is and you're willing to give it a try. We really look forward to hearing your feedback and answering any questions you might have. And then we just really want to say thank you. We appreciate any time you've given to us, the listening with us today. We appreciate the time you take to fill out our little feedback form. And we appreciate you giving us a try in the next couple of months. If you need anything, please, again, don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me at sarah@extemsions.com, or you can email us, my whole team, at learn@extemsions.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Instagram at ExSTEMsions Learning, or on Twitter just at ExSTEMsions. Thank you again so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to collaborating. Have a great day.